Velvet fans are getting a fandom name. They're happy, Red Velvet's happy, SM's happy, but I can tell you someone who isn't happy, and that would be FX stans. Much like a traditional child who is about 5 years old with the mental capacity of I can't have something no one else can, FX fans are once again chucking the shit at yet another group who is getting a fandom name whilst they currently do not have one themselves. Quick flashback, throwback Thursday, flashback Friday, depending on what day you're watching this, possibly not even any of those days, but a throwback nonetheless. When EXO got their fandom name after about 2 years into their debut, or somewhat close to that. Seriously, you guys waited for 2 years for EXO Myungsu. Hope it was worth it. Nevertheless, when they finally got their name, what happened? EXO-L rejoiced, or questioned it seriously, and FX fans came out. And once again, we have another SM group in the form of Red Velvet getting a fandom name, and guess who's back again. This is one of those videos where it's not the popular opinion, but unfortunately this is just how shit works in K-pop, whether you are approving of it or not. And this is why FX doesn't actually have a fan name, and 90% I'm certain will not ever get one. Okay, so first off, there's several things to try and understand about here. Probably two main factors. The first factor is what is a fandom. Second factor is FX themselves and their group construct. Going to the first things, Ian, what is a fandom? Big important thing. Fandoms are very different in Korea than how they're run Western global wise. So for any K-pop fan watching this video, particularly ones who don't like Western music, I want you to imagine the first thing that comes to your head when you hear the word belieber. Odds are, if you're probably one of the majority of the population, you just did like that internal cringe. Because believers do not have a good reputation outside of themselves. Believers like themselves, no one else does. Now, you could be one of those rare people who actually don't have a problem with them, but I'm talking about the majority of opinion here. But the general opinion of fandoms from people who are not in them is that they are teenage girls who are borderline psychotic and obsessive compulsive. Now, thinking of how people recognize believers, directioners, etc., move that over to Korea, and that is pretty much what you get when Koreans think of other fandoms, be it VIPs, XOLs, InSpirits. Any fandom has a negative connotation when you think of it if you're not in that fandom. That's not just applicable to, oh, it's XOL who are the crazy fandom, I'm in the same fandom. No, all fandoms are fucking insane to these people, to anyone who's not in them. That's not just my fandom special. You're not a special snowflake. Everyone hates you who's not part of you. So, important thing to consider, number one, people outside fandoms don't like fandoms, and they have a very bad reputation, not something you want to be associated in if you're not already a part of it with a conceived idea that it's actually a good thing. Other thing, way fandoms in Korea work, completely different. Take InSpirit, for example. Because I'm in it, it makes it easier to talk about. I am grabbing the one that's closest to me for easy access. This is an InSpirit official membership. This one was the 3rd generation, so it's not the latest one, but it's just an example of what it looks like. So you pull it open, you get a bunch of stuff inside, you get a little case, and there's a card inside with a membership, and you pay for this. I cannot emphasize that enough right now. In order to be an official InSpirit, I had to pay money, and quite a lot of it, and a waste for what it's really worth in my case. You want to be in a fandom, you gotta pay for it. Now, this isn't just me being an exclusive, you know, oh, I'm an official, you're not. This is the way that the Korean companies structure them. So, this is how Koreans view the fandoms. This is not me being elitist, this is how fandoms actually work in South Korea. You pay to be a member of them, therefore you have the right to actually call yourself an official InSpirit, an official Pink Panda, whatever your fandom is actually inclined to be. Note exception XOL, and there's a couple of exceptions possibly, but the main thing for a majority of fandoms is you have to pay to be in them. I think this is why people on international levels and Korean levels don't necessarily get along. If you're one of the people who are complaining that FX doesn't have a fandom name, and you don't live in Korea and therefore would not be able to attend their schedules, you download their albums off K2N blog, and you consider yourself to be a part of 10 other different girl group fandoms, I am sorry to inform you, if you aren't already aware of this, you are not the kind of person that SM would be targeting if they even did fandoms to begin with. When you're complaining, it's basically like not even a scratch off their nose. And fandoms is a topic in itself that I could rant on and on and on about, but hopefully that gives you the basic gist of A, fandoms aren't likable to the general public, and B, the fandoms that exist in South Korea are very different to the ones that are global in the sense you have to pay money and dedicate a lot more of your time, and it's generally expected of you not just by the artist, but also by other people in the fandom too. Alrighty, moving on to what FX are. If you're a fan of FX, you're probably already aware of this yourself, but they're marketed as an alternative idol group. They're not really a stereotypical group. They're meant to be different. That's how they were created. It's why they were created. FX's appeal is in the sense that the 5 members are very distinct, and it's also in the sense that they are marketed to the general public rather than to a niche fan market. Let's break down the 5 members of FX firstly. You have Luna, who is a main vocal, and she does individual appearances outside of the group in musicals and also appearances on Immortal's song. Then you have Amber, tomboy, foreign, I believe she's Taiwanese, and American obviously, so she appeals definitely to the Western fans. I mean, she's got huge followings on Twitter, interacts with her fans. She's probably the most human in the sense of that you feel like you know her, and she has her market in terms of variety shows, and thankfully recently getting some promotion in her solo album too. Next you have Victoria, who is the Chinese member, very much the mother hen of the group. So she's quite elegant, she's a ballerina, she can speak 2 different languages, which is regarded as intelligent, so she's yet again very different too. Her focus is on dance and is also in the she promotes more in the Chinese market too. Then you have Crystal, who's cold, chic, maknae, American as well, and she was also quite suited to being an actress given she's got what Koreans refer to as actress visuals. Don't even get me started on that. She's got an actress style face and aura. Then you have Sully, who's similar to Crystal in terms of the age line, but then they're almost polar opposites. For what Crystal is chic and cool and model, you have Sully, who prior to the whole Choza situation was very much the cute, bubbly, innocent member of the group. 5 members are distinctly very, very different. The intention so that they can get fans individually, and then they come together when they have group promotions to try and appeal to a wide range of people. Big thing in fandoms, if you're a member of one, you're expected to support every single member and every single individual activity they do and follow all the members, and you're supposed to like everyone. If that were the case in FX, it wouldn't work very well, because if you're interested in Victoria, who is very much, as I was saying before, elegant, Chinese, educated, and ballerina, you might not be as interested in Amber the tomboy. Or you might not be as interested as Sully, who's very cute. The members are so different that it's only natural to really pick one favourite and then 2 others who are close to what you like in an idol. They're very, very different so that they can appeal to a very broad range of people. If you like all of them, that's totally cool and even better, but it's not actually their intended purpose when they were putting the group together. In the way that Korean fandoms run, if you only stan like one member of the group and then don't really care about the others, you're seen as a bad fan. That is something that SM are trying to avoid, and it's basically they were saying, hey, if you only like Amber, that's totally cool. You know, you can still call yourself a fan of FX as a whole without having to put a label on yourself. The other side of it, as I was saying before, fandoms have an extremely shit connotation to the name when you are not a member of them, because FX is trying to spread themselves very, very widely and appeal to members of the general public rather than one niche little group of people who stan only them. They don't want that shit label following them. I mean, all you have to use as an example, think of XOL. No offense to any people who are a member of that fandom, but typically as soon as you hear EXO, your first thing that you think of, and it's seen in a lot of comments on websites, oh shit, those idiots. FX are trying to avoid that. They don't want a fandom. They don't want to be dragged down as a group by their fandom's image. And just something else that I've seen that has just kind of gotten me frustrated, because I can understand being upset if you want a fandom, but acting like you're entitled to it when a company actually has their reasons not to provide you with one. Some people have started a change petition to get SM to make FX a fan club because they're so neglected. No, they're not neglected. That's the whole way they're marketed to appeal to the general public. And change petitions, in my experiences that I've seen them, I've seen petitions for women being freed from jail because they were raped, and obviously that's something they should never be in jail for. I've seen petitions to try and stop the Australian government deregulating universities and making me pay $100,000 for a degree. I've seen change petitions for Leela's Law, which was all about a poor woman who killed herself because her parents didn't accept her and tried to force her to undergo therapy, telling her that it was wrong to be different inside from who she actually was as a transgender woman. When I think of petitions, I think of people wanting to change the world and make a better place out of it. I do not think of, oh boo-hoo, poor me, I don't have a fandom. And I think people who are signing that and spreading that and making that the priority of their day need to check themselves. So, just to reiterate, hopefully summing up why FX currently don't have a fandom and why SM very likely won't make them one in the near future. Fandoms have a very bad connotation to them to people who are not in them. Members of FX are very distinctly different, for reasons to appeal to small markets individually and then bring them all together when they have a comeback, hopefully. Fandoms are run very differently in South Korea, and as a result, if you're an international fan complaining about FX not having a fandom, it doesn't even affect you because you wouldn't even be considered in the real fandom if it was brought in, unless of course you're willing to pay for it. SM are trying to get rid of the stigma that is in typical fandoms in the sense of only standing one member being a bad thing. If anything, this encourages it. This encourages the Sully only fans, the Crystal only fans, and it tells them that it's actually not a bad thing to only like one member of the group. Probably people who don't like what I'm saying, in some ways I apologise, but really, sorry not sorry, because this is just the way that things are, and I'm a little overseeing people trying to tear down good things happening to other groups such as Red Velvet at the moment. Let them have their fandom. It's not affecting you. Sorry, but other fandoms are going to exist whether you like it or not. And as the final point that I would like to make, if anything, this is extremely ironic, because the exact behaviour of setting up change positions, starting shit with other fandoms who do get their names, and generally acting like really entitled brats is the exact behaviour that SM is trying to disassociate FX from, with not having a fandom to begin with. So, a little bit of irony for you to consider.